Last video, I introduced the Backlog Bingo Challenge to start knocking games off of my backlog, and completed a bingo board with just 3 games in under 20 hours. And it was phenomenally fun, so we're doing it again. Just as a reminder, I've chosen a set of games that I wanted to get off my backlog, spun a wheel to choose which one to play, and played it while marking off a bingo board with tropes, challenges, and other stuff to watch for. You should check out that first video if you haven't already, but right after I finished that one, I generated another card to keep the fun going. And here it is. Some of these would have been really handy for the first 3 games, but that's how it goes. I'm sure you understand most of these squares, but I do want to highlight Receive Something from a Town Crier, which is probably the silliest challenge we came up with, and I will be very surprised if I manage to get that one. Especially because Town Crier is such an antiquated job that I will be pretty lenient with that definition. And you know what get rid of that old yee ass haircut means if you know the GTA 5 quote, but if you don't, that just means cut or style your hair. Great to see that and change your outfit as they work super well together, although not in their current configuration. Now, let's see what the wheel gives us this time. Mafia 3. I've played both Mafia Definitive Edition and Mafia 2 already, and like them both a lot, and even though I've heard Mafia 3 is far weaker, I still wanted to give this a shot and complete the trilogy, especially since the Old Country is coming out next year, which was only announced after I started playing, so that was a fun coincidence. And you know, people were right, this is the weakest one. I wanted to like it, but it commits all the cardinal sins of open world games and doesn't offset it with the story and gameplay. The narrative was enjoyable in parts, but lacked any real intrigue, and while the gunplay was adequate, it didn't feel superb. And that's kinda what I expected. Nothing I'd heard about this game suggested that it was a fun romp moment to moment. More so than the other Mafia games, it tended to fall into the trap of bloated open world shooter design where it becomes insanely repetitive insanely quickly. Taking over criminal rackets and assigning districts to your subordinates is an interesting mechanic on paper, and for players who get super invested in it, it does add a bit of management that makes each playthrough unique. But if you aren't super invested, it becomes a stumbling block that creates a recursive and frankly terrible gameplay loop. Primarily, it's the mission structure that's the big problem. Mafia 1 and 2 maybe have an issue with the linear story disincentivizing you from exploring, although at least 1 had a dedicated free roam mode. 3 has the opposite problem, where the missions don't section the story off, but instead the story just floats in the background while you do the same stuff over and over again. Instead of individual missions with memorable set pieces, 90% of Mafia 3 is drive to area, interrogate person, drive to area, kill person, drive to area, destroy stuff, drive to area, kill another person, and then finally do a fully formed interesting bit of gameplay. I understand that coming up with dozens of standout missions that give you a different experience is incredibly difficult, and to be fair, in games like GTA 4, a game I really enjoy, 80% of the missions boil down to a mindless kill fest. But Mafia 3 reduces everything to the basic elements, and when you do that for 20 hours, it gets old quickly. I'd rather have a handful of finely crafted tasks than a buttload of repetitive quests, and this game became instantly tedious with its incessant micro-objectives. And thanks to its bland as hell gameplay and terrible mission flow, I couldn't bring myself to care about the story either. That also might be because I knew how the ending went, but also the cutscenes were not a substantial reward for suffering through the action. I had TV shows on almost the entire time I was playing because if I didn't, I'd put the game down entirely. As such, I might have missed something for the bingo board because I wasn't exactly listening to what these characters were saying. If that's the case, then, whoops. Speaking of, let's claim some squares. We can check off fire attack / weapon for all of these Molotov cocktails, and since you can throw these directly onto somebody, let's fill in hit someone with a physics object as well. During your escape through Mardi Gras, some people dress up in a mascot costume, even if only partially. Mafia 3 uses death animations for the most part, but it does occasionally go for ragdoll physics, so let's mark that. In preparation for his revenge against the Marcanos, Lincoln cuts his hair with his knife, and while this scene is more intense than this square deserves, he does technically get rid of that old yee-ass haircut. Also, you can change your outfit. Check. As you take back River Row, you destroy a building by blowing up a trailer on a construction site, and as part of an errand for Vito, you've got to get Michael Greco back to the docks before time runs out, as indicated by the on-screen timer. There were a few close ones that I decided against though. Cassandra offers you a cup of coffee as you try to recruit her, but Lincoln ain't drinking it, so we can't check drink coffee off. As for a title drop in the dialogue, obviously nobody would say Mafia 3, but they do occasionally say Mafia.
Hoover didn't even acknowledge the Mafia existed until 19...
The question is, would that count? I asked my neutral third party, and they said no, so we'll leave it. Perhaps the most frustrating one was crab. Vito doesn't have any on ice at the docks, although I did find this picture of a crawfish, which I know is more Louisiana than crab is, but that's not what I'm looking for. Then I saw this artwork on a loading screen advertising hard-boiled crabs at a place called Central Market. That's a place in the game with multiple locations, but after breaking into 2 of them at night like a good citizen, I couldn't find one crab or crab-based item among the shelves. So that's a dead end, although it's possible I missed something. Still, it's a good number of squares to lock in, but the thing is, I got all of these within the first few hours, except obviously beat a game, and everything after that was just more of the same. Which is an appropriate metaphor for Mafia 3, but still, I was playing this for 19 hours, 32 minutes, and 43 seconds, so it wasn't exactly a quick romp, especially since it took the same amount of time as beating the board for the last video. But Mafia 3 is now off the backlog, so it's time to spin the wheel once again. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team. Side note, I chose these games before Red Rescue Team was announced for Switch Online, so I could have done that instead, but I have owned a copy of Blue Rescue Team for years and played it a bit but never came close to finishing it. That was over a decade ago, and as I've been slowly knocking mainline Pokemon games off of my backlog, even beating Ultra Sun earlier this year, I figured it was time to give this spin-off its fair shake. And while I'm glad I did, I don't know if this game is for me. I don't exactly know where Rescue Team ranks among Mystery Dungeon fans, but at least for this one, I see the potential while also feeling sort of underwhelmed. I am no expert on dungeon crawlers, and probably not even RPGs in general, so a lot of my preconceptions about this game come from the mainline series, and I guess that all translated over fine and dandy. Type advantages and status conditions, weather changing how effective your moves are, holding items for the right moment, that's all here and accounted for, but with the tile-based movement and combat, positioning yourself in the right spot is another crucial part. And I love the idea on paper, but the nitty-gritty mechanics bothered me by the end. For one thing, let's talk about healing your partners. I can get behind the idea of restricting your ability to give healing items to teammates, maybe by only allowing you to do it when you stand next to them, but having to throw stuff at them, especially when they can miss or the character catches them instead of ingesting them, is incredibly stupid. But my main gripe is that getting your partners in the spot you want them in is a gamble. Getting locked into one-on-one fights in corridors is one thing, but when you're in a room with several enemies, or even just one annoying little monster, the partner AI seriously gets on my nerves. And yes, I am fully aware that you can change the Pokemon's tactics to give them a different direction, which can help them get out of doing absolutely nothing, and that maybe mitigates the issue some of the time, but it's a band-aid solution if anything. And I normally like the positioning aspect of games like this. It's a fun little wrinkle when it's done right, and at least for Blue Rescue Team, it's not done right. It's because of this that the difficulty scale was all over the place. The Sky Tower was a big stumbling block for me, but the Sky Tower boss? Piss easy. Those gripes aside, the combat was decent enough, certainly an interesting twist in the Pokemon formula, and one that I'm sure probably works better in the newer games, but not all that spectacular, at least not for me. I don't know if Blue and Red Rescue Teams are considered the best Mystery Dungeon games, so there is a fair chance that I picked a bad starting point or that other games refine the issues that I had here. I am definitely willing to give other games a shot, but probably not for any time soon. And I will say, I kinda got into the story. Starting up a little rescue team with your new Pokemon friend and helping everybody out, simple and cute, but I liked it. And it was incredibly simple, sure, no unexpected twists or anything, yet I still found myself enamored with the story of my Cyndaquil and his friend Mudkip. And without going into spoiler territory, I bought into the emotional ending just enough to feel genuinely touched with how it wrapped up. Because, hey, I'm not made of stone. I just wish that a lot of the story bits weren't relegated to the post-game, because otherwise the whole thing feels incomplete. And considering the problems I had with the gameplay, I wasn't inclined to keep going after the credits rolled, even if the adventure had pulled me in. Again, I can't tell if that's just issues with Blue Rescue Team, or if the gameplay of this series just doesn't appeal to me, but I can at least say that it's another game beaten. Now, onto the bingo board. The game begins with a quiz to determine what Pokemon you are, and I think that counts well enough as breaking the fourth wall, as the game is literally reaching out to you as a player. Whiscash hangs out in a pond north of Pokemon Square with some lovely waterfalls behind him, so check that off. The team doesn't always do this, but sometimes our rescue buddies do a cute little victory pose. Blink and you'll miss it though. Now, although I wouldn't count the Pelipper post office delivering you letters as an example of receiving something from a town crier, there is a point where everyone's gathered in town square and a Pelipper postman drops a breaking news piece for everyone to grab. And after consulting my third party, we decided that this counts. Finally, this game features both Mankey and Aipom, so we can check off Monkey. But sadly, nary a Krabby or Kingler for us crabless bingo players, so that square must still remain blank. And it'd be great if we could claim level up, but as this is an RPG, it won't count. It took me 14 hours, 4 minutes, and 41 seconds to reach the credits, and again, that is ignoring a lot of post-game content, but I just want to move on. We've come so tantalizingly close this round. There are 3 different squares that will win this card for us right now, so we can only hope that the next game has backflips, skiing, or snowboarding. I've kinda lost hope for the crabs at this stage. But enough banter, let's get back to the wheel and find out what the next game will be. Alright, we've got our first Friend's Choice game. I asked my friend Gaming Navi to pick a game for me, and she selected Chroma Squad, the tactical RPG inspired by tokusatsu shows. And yes, this is another RPG that we can't level up in, although this game doesn't even have levels for the characters, so it's not a big loss. I didn't grow up watching stuff like Power Rangers and Kamen Rider, so there wasn't a nostalgic attachment there, nor have I ever even been a fan of tactical RPGs. Like, I've tried before to get into Fire Emblem and it just hasn't clicked for me yet. So you might be unsurprised to learn that I tried Chroma Squad and dropped it kind of quickly, but not necessarily because I wasn't having fun, I just got distracted by other things, as is so often the case with games on the backlog. I think what interested me when I bought this game is the concept of a group of stunt actors making their own Sentai TV show. Even without a personal connection to tokusatsu series, I thought that was a great idea for an RPG, and now that Gaming Navi asked me to play it, I was hopeful I'd see something in tactical RPGs that I hadn't before. And the funny thing is, my opinion of the concept of this game and its genre basically inverted themselves. And what I mean is, Chroma Squad at least kindled a fire in me to play more tactical RPGs because I think I'll enjoy them now, but also I was disappointed that the game got away from the original idea of actors on a TV show. Trying to avoid spoilers, but let's just say that there was a weird and kinda sudden midway shift towards a plot with actual stakes, and that was less exciting to me than just making a show and having a fun time. If the game had stuck with that angle, or at least incorporated it better into the actual storyline, I'd be less inclined to complain about it, but even if that was the case, the droll dialogue and overstuffed cutscenes would still be an anchor weighing this thing down. More vibes, less cliched dialogue, please. And sure, tokusatsu fans probably love all the references and callbacks, but after a certain point, all the breaking of the fourth wall got on my nerves. And I marked that square already. But I at least got into the gameplay enough to have fun, even if this seems pretty damn basic for a tactical RPG. With 5 main party members available to you at almost all times and a bunch of missions to clear, the campaign ramps up in difficulty pretty nicely, which is perfect for a newbie like me. I won't say that I was challenged all that much as far as strategy was concerned. There are very clear routes for most of these encounters, and dogpiling on annoying enemies is easier than you might think. And there aren't any real surprises as far as the foes you face or the scenarios you're put in. I imagine any RPG mega veteran will consider all of this old hat. Certainly, I knew more or less what to expect in each mission as far as the enemy types and mechanics were concerned. But you know what I didn't expect? Yeah, this game is a little bit memey in a mid-2010s kind of way, but the referential tone is kinda inevitable when your game is a very on-the-nose send-up of a whole genre, especially one that people love. I don't think that this will make me a convert to tokusatsu shows, but it made for a great introduction to tactical RPGs, so if you want to dip your toes into that genre or support an indie project, you could do a lot worse than this one. Unfortunately, while Chroma Squad was a decent little adventure, it was also not a great pick for this bingo card. At least at this stage, because I noticed a few repeats. I already mentioned breaking the fourth wall, but by nature of being about TV shows with practical effects, of course there would be a mascot costume. Like this Barney ripoff that's actually a lizard guy with a shotgun. I always suspected as such. Anyway, the only square I counted during this playthrough was armor/suit upgrade, and even that might be a stretch because you're buying new equipment rather than modifying your current one, but they are higher level equipment, so I guess it counts. Other than that, I don't think we can claim anything. Thanks to the team acrobatics, there are plenty of front flips, but no back flips, unfortunately. And in my own hubris, I averted a title drop in the dialogue because while the gang says Chroma Squad if you don't change the team name, I had already changed it to Bingo Squad without even realizing that that would mess up this square. I'm sure some of you would think that would still count because it's the default setting, but honestly, the square doesn't even really help us right now, so I'm gonna let it be. Not a lot of movement as far as the bingo board goes, but I beat the square in 9 hours, 36 minutes, and 56 seconds, so I guess we can claim the single square. And we have set up a lot of opportunities to win, so if I get the right game on the next wheel spin, we could finish this card right here. Let's hope Lady Luck is on our side. Kingdom Hearts. The curse of the RPG strikes again! I am seriously considering getting rid of that leveling up square for future runs. Since I didn't grow up with any Sony consoles, Kingdom Hearts eluded my grasp, although I was certainly aware of it as a 2000s kid. I think my first exposure was the commercial for KH2, and of course the Disney characters caught my attention, as did the song Sanctuary, which is a banger. But without a PlayStation 2, my options for getting into the series were limited. Closest I could get was watching Kingdom Hearts AMVs in the early days of YouTube. Remember those? Despite my interest, I didn't pick up any games until Dream Drop Distance, and let me tell you, that is a terrible place to begin. I've wanted to start properly with the original game for a while, and now that I have Final Mix via the all-in-one package, I can do that. This was intriguing from the get-go as a blend of Disney and Final Fantasy elements, and it clicked right away for me. Journeying into each world and meeting all these familiar characters and their storylines, even in a heavily reduced form, it was enchanting. And although this franchise is 22 years old and thus no longer a strange idea, it did remind me that developers and publishers back in the day were way more comfortable taking a creative swing. But enough complaining about the gaming industry. So much has been said about Kingdom Hearts and its convoluted, or some might say self-indulgent, narrative, but this one was relatively easy to follow. At least with this entry, it's not so much that the characters speak in riddles, but more that they more or less say the same thing over and over again, but flowery, like it's a poetry contest that they are destined to lose. But whatever, we have the Disney side as the opposite end of the pendulum, trimmed of all the fat, and quite a bit of meat as well. I know the inconsequential nature of the Disney stories is a common complaint, and with KH1, you can absolutely feel that here. Although the Disney part is what sparked my initial interest all those years ago, that's not why it ultimately stuck its hooks in me. Rather, it's the combat that I fell in love with, and I know I'm not alone. I wasn't sure if the real-time menu navigation would feel good, but with a relatively simple set of commands, a handful of Keyblade skills that are easy to deploy, and shortcuts for magic, it's simultaneously complex and not hard to juggle at all. While it isn't the simplest RPG I've played, and it can get pretty damn annoying by the end, like Hollow Bastion being way too easy to fall off of, with flying enemies that take you into the air, it's overall pretty beginner-friendly. I was gonna say that I'm looking forward to playing Kingdom Hearts 2 next, and I do want to play that, but I really should play Chain of Memories first, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna like that one. I'm willing to give it a shot, but I am apprehensive about those cards. And while I enjoyed the combat here, I have to admit, it was pretty mindless, and not that challenging for 90% of the adventure. A few bosses gave me trouble, but most of my deaths came from navigating the battle menu too slowly to drop a potion, or from Donald and Goofy being way too late with a recovery move. But the actual fights were pretty comfortable for a while, even Ursula, whom I heard was a hurdle, but wasn't actually hard for me. I actually think Oogie Boogie was worse because his battle is kinda jank. Make no mistake though, the end of the world kicked my ass, not because I was underleveled, just unprepared for Ansem 2 and World of Chaos. For reference, I played on Final Mix normal difficulty, chose the shield, dropped the sword, and sailed at midday, so you KH aficionados can tell me whether I made things too easy for myself, but should I play this again, I'm probably cranking it up to proud mode. So let's clean up this bingo board, and you fans would have noted that this card is as good as one, but maybe not for the square you thought it'd be. As a quick note, this does not count for brand/product placement for Disney. That would give an unfair advantage to licensed games, and that should really be reserved for actual sponsorships. Also, drink brisk iced tea. Anyway, this might be debated, but as you travel to Deep Jungle, the gummy ship crashes, and as the cutscene shows us, Sora is falling on his own rather than in the ship, and even though it was off screen, I am choosing to interpret this as him jumping out of an aircraft. Feel free to come at me for that one though. And hallelujah, when you go to Atlantica, you meet Sebastian, the very lovely Jamaican crab. Finally got it. But we're not done yet. While Sora does plenty of front flips once you get high jump, he doesn't backflip in this one. But Riku does. Finally, of course, there's a title drop in the dialogue because they go to Kingdom Hearts, which is definitely darkness, and don't bother checking it because that's a fact. Just ask Ansem. With a final time of 22 hours, 3 minutes, and 39 seconds to beat this game, we can lock it in and claim a double bingo in a total of 65 hours, 17 minutes, and 59 seconds. That is pretty exciting, even though it took 3 times as long as the last card, and I don't have anything special planned for getting 2 bingo lines, so enjoy Goofy's mouth. Thanks to Gaming Navi for her suggestion, and to you for checking this video out. This has been a ton of fun to do, and I'm excited to dive deeper into my backlog. I'll be starting a 3rd card soon, but for now, if you for some reason watched this whole thing and missed the first one, why not watch that next? I'll see you next time with more backlog and more bingo, and hopefully a better outro than that. Bye bye!